At Your End Step is brought to you by Comic Town and BCW Supplies. Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan. I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
We have another fun-filled episode for you folks this week. I got a few community topics to talk about, including some M19 cards that we got our eyes on.
I feel like if we're going to go as a two-man crew, then I need to get a keyboard with cool sound effects, and I can just back you up.
Just like get an actual like physical soundboard.
No. I want like a full-on like 70s like TV show that's on at 2 a.m. that's like introducing a bad B movie, and it's just like
Gotcha.
Like,
all right.
We have Magic 2019 cards.
I thought you meant like the talk show, like you would be like the Roots to my Jimmy Fallon.
I could do that. Let's be honest, I'm not the Roots. I'm
no one's the Roots but the Roots.
Paul
Schaefer. Thank you. I couldn't recollect the man's name. Yes.
Hilariously, all I could picture was Hermes from Hercules.
Also, that's his most. That's my Paul Schaefer.
That's my. All right, everyone. The joke question of the week is, what's your Paul Schaefer?
Who's your Paul Schaefer?
That's really good.
We also have Commander Anthology announcement that happened today, actually.
Keep going. This is just your stroll music.
And then some other topics. Don't want to talk about them all just yet. And then we'll jump into our competitive segment. We have some GPs and opens to talk about, and then move into the closing of the show. So let's jump right in. So we have some Magic 2019 commons that sneakily made their way into a Dominaria booster pack or box or what have you. So I forget how many we got in.
It was like 10 or 11, something like that.
Yep.
Which is kind of crazy. Like that's purposeful, right?
You would think. I mean, obviously they have had some, quality woes as of recently with, where they are getting the cards printed. So maybe this was, some poor, collation or something like that. The important takeaway is they are commons. So it's not like we're seeing.
And most of them are like, these look like very corset-y commons. Either definite reprints or like, I think it was almost jarring to kind of look at them. After we're in Dominaria where they kind of like messed with New World Order a little bit, and then to look at these and be like, oh, right.
And not to mention, like, it's been so long since like we were just like in a corset.
I haven't worn a corset probably ever.
But just for the, I hate you. Just
you use the preposition "in," man. I don't know what to tell you. What did you expect from me?
No, I get it. I understand. You don't have to. I know it's there. You don't always have to.
Well, okay, what do you think these fine folks paid for?
I mean, some of them paid for it. I will give you that.
Okay, I know who I talked to.
I guess they paid for your irreverent wit.
And if you're not paying for these puns, come on, man.
Consider it.
They get better. They don't get better.
They don't get better. Alert. It never gets better.
It just hurts more each time.
So how do you want to talk about that? You want to talk about like them at all? Or do you just want to say like, hey, it happened, it's out there?
Man, I really want to talk about one thing about it, only because it put something in my head that I didn't think about. Because we discussed the 5 Planeswalkers last week, and the reprints here, one is a very specific reprint that is already in Standard, so it's nothing crazy. So I'm just going to come out and say it. So if you want to skip ahead, maybe like 2-3 minutes, that's fine. I don't blame you. Most of the cards, so I'm going to talk about some of the cards here. Most of the cards are basic commons, some cool ideas. One of them is Tormenting Voice. And it's specifically the Tormenting Voice from Khans of Tarkir. The art with Sarkhan Vol hearing Ugin's voice. And it has Sarkhan Vol on the flavor text. We haven't seen Sarkhan Vol since the Tarkir block.
Yes, it's dragons, technically.
But we know that the Planeswalkers in the core set are going to be 5 monocolored Planeswalkers, and it's a Bolas-themed set. Why didn't we think Sarkhan is the red Planeswalker?
Because we wanted to be Koth.
I understand, but the Sarkhan actually makes a ton of sense. Like, if we're we haven't seen him in a while, and I think the his whole look at me, I'm blue and green now, mixed with who is the other Planeswalker? I can't think of her name now.
I know you're talking about the other Planeswalker.
Yeah, the one who
your blog.
Yeah, I can't think of her name. this is good. Good show. Good content.
Yep. Yeah.
Anyways, though, I think that sort of overshadowed a little bit, and we haven't heard of Sarkin since then. But Sarkin played a major role in
Narset.
Thank you. Sarkin played a major role in the current storyline. Sarkin played a major role. I didn't do it on purpose. My brain does it accidentally at this point. Like it's trade in releasing Ugin, like making sure Ugin was alive. So it'd be interesting to see if like Sarkin now his mind is not broken anymore. He got to recreate his world as a dragon world, and now we have this Sarkin who knows that he got toyed with by Bolus, who might have a chance to join the fight. And I think that to me is like an interesting concept. And like when I saw the tormenting voice, that was actually the biggest thing to me was like, oh man, it could just be Sarkin in this set, and that would make so much sense.
Yeah.
So I think that actually might. Like, that's what I think it is now.
Yeah, and like in the past, like Sarkin has been sort of painted like a pseudo villain of a certain persuasion, or maybe like a misunderstood misanthrope or something like that.
On the edge.
Yeah, so it would kind of still like exist within the flavor and what have you. So we'll kind of have to wait and see. But the rest are just sort of commons. Some of them are reprints that are not currently standard legal, so that's important to keep in mind. It could be role players. So we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But they're out there if you want to take a look. And it'll be, we have Battle Bond coming up as the next thing we're kind of get it spoilers about. So we're still kind of far off from seeing any more M19 cards. So maybe these commons will tide you over.
Yeah.
Probably not. So, moving on, we do have the Commander Anthology 2 that's going to be coming out here in the pipeline and was officially, announced. I don't know if it was officially announced or not announced, I should say, officially sort of fully spoiled.
I think it was, because this I think was one of the things on announcement day last year, but I can't remember. But no, it was officially spoiled with the deck lists that are in it, and then also some cool tidbits about the legends that are in it. So, do you want me to list the deck lists that are getting reprinted?
Yeah, I have them up. It's okay. So Devour for Power, which was the Mimeoplasm deck from the first Commander. We have Built from Scratch, which is Duretti. And then Wade into Battle, which is the red-white deck with the giant...
Kalemne, Disciple of Iros.
Yeah, Kalemne. And last, but certainly not least, Breed Lethality, the Atraxa deck, which was
that's a big deal.
That is a pretty big deal. Obviously, that deck is still very popular. That's one of the most popular commanders that exists,
and pretty expensive. This is the Heavenly Inferno of this set.
Oh yeah, for sure. So those are the four. But the cool thing, I'll let Mike talk about.
Yeah, so the legends that you're getting foils of, they have gone through. Now, I saw this on Moto when they instituted some stuff. They've gone back and added the legend frame to older legendary cards, and I really like it. We're getting that legend frame on these reprints, and I guess that makes sense. Like, logically, that makes sense to me, but I didn't think about it till I saw it. And we get some cards here that have this new frame and hopefully a good foiling process that are going to look really sweet. Now, I know the Mimeoplasm did get a foil, right? It got was it the Commander Anthology? Not Anthology, Commander Arsenal.
Arsenal, right? Correct.
We have that. We have Damia, Sage of the Stone. We have Varash the Hunter. We have Bosch Iron Golem, which makes me much happier than it has any right to, and it looks so sweet with the new frame. Fell to the Third Path, Kalemne, as we mentioned, Anya, Merciless Angel, Gisela, Blade of Gold Knight, which is kind of like, I'm really excited for how it looks. But man, it just makes me beg the question: why again was this an M25? Anyways, separate discussion. Atraxa, which looks sweet. Ikra Shidikwi, the Usurper. Ishai, the Ojutai Dragon Speaker. Ray, and then Rayon, Last of the Abzan. We also have some cards that don't get the foil treatment, but still get the new one. We got like Jareth, Leonin Titan. We have Fumiko, the Low Blood. Tuk Tuk the Explorer, which is sweet, and I want to see what the legendary token looks like with it. That's going to be sweet.
It'll probably have the same frame as well.
Because the Varix token looks pretty great. Gave, Guru of Spores, Skullbriar, the Walking Grave, Sadak, or is it Zadok, Lord of Secrets, and then Varel, the whole Blade, and Rexiel, the Risen Deep. So we get all these like cards from across a lot of different sets with that new frame. The foils, I think, are going to look insane. I don't know. It's such a cool touch, and I'm sure this is the standard going forward. But I didn't think about it, and seeing it made me really happy. Like, I think I'd rather have the copy of Atraxa that has the new frame for Atraxa, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I think it's pretty cool.
And some first-time foilings are we have Damia. Damia's never been a foil,
right?
and I believe Duretti from the.
So Duretti isn't listed here?
It isn't listed here, but
Planeswalker.
Yes, correct. So it won't get a new frame.
Right.
But it should be in foil.
It should be. I didn't mention it, which is kind of weird, but I wonder if that's for a different reason, and I don't know what that could be, but...
Yeah, it's weird, but that is technically the commander from that set, so you would expect it to be foil.
Right. Did Feldon get a foil?
No, maybe, I don't know what's in the commander arsenal, so maybe in there. No, it was a judge foil.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's right.
So, but this is pretty cool. I mean, the price point's still high. It's like $164.99 for the MSRP, and these are still going to be somewhat limited, like they were last time. But if you wanted one last time, you definitely could pick it up, as far as that is concerned. But I like a lot of these decks. Like, I think the Devour for Power was definitely like the first deck that I picked up when these first came out, so I have some like history with that deck a little bit. So it might be something that I'm interested in, but I don't really play a lot of Commander, so like who cares?
Yeah, that's right. No, I think it's just really cool, and if you are a fan of like obviously Commander, this is good for you. I know we have friends of the show like Keller who missed out on Atraxa and have been trying to get one at a good price. This could be a way just to do that, and you get cool foils.
And there's definitely value there, and like some neater reprints. Like the red white deck has like Fiery Confluence in it. Which, if you don't know, is actually a pretty expensive card recently. I don't know if it's going to, with the changes in how, like, Planeswalkers to be, like, the targeting rule, like, that did change how that card works. So it's not as popular as it used to be. So maybe that was a a little bit too late to really, help with that card. But it'll be cool. And I'm glad they're going to keep doing this so that you don't have these situations where, you have these chase commander decks that come out where there's, the one that you have to get or something like that. This kind of helps make sure they can get more of those in the system one way or another. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So next up we have an update to the Magic Online Code of Conduct. And basically, what this will allow for is, Mike, you were telling me that this is going to allow for easier reporting.
So what they're going to be doing is they are going to be upping their recording process with this. You're still going to file conduct reports.
Yeah.
But they're tracking some things now that they weren't before. There's also they walk through like the ignore process, and then when you ignore a player, which will stop things like them initiating a trade with you, which gets rid of the issue we were talking about a few weeks ago. Oh, maybe we didn't talk about
we didn't talk about it.
Where people in like top 8s of PBTQs, or PTQs, I should say, were getting a bunch of trade requests with a bunch of players. Now, if it's a coordinated effort from like 20 players, I don't know if blocking all of them quickly is feasible.
Right.
But what is nice is that then, on the block player, for example, it has a drop-down menu, and it says, well, this person will be blocked because of deck choice, harassment, spam, slow play, bad trade, or other. Please specify. I don't have bad players on that list. I really don't understand that. That's a little rough.
Or deck choice.
Yeah.
Like,
it could be one of those things where, like, because it makes you avoid them in queues as well.
Yeah.
So, like, if a person is, like, you and this other person are one of the few people still in the queues and you've played against them, like, 6 times, maybe you just don't want to play against them again. And that's fair. But the idea is they said they're going to start reviewing that a little more consistently so that if a person, like, if they notice a person is blocked by a number of players with same reasons, like harassment, right? Then they will go and contact that person to be like, hey, why is this happening? What's going on? They also go through about how you can do the appeal and how you should like upload like files and stuff of it. And the whole point of it is that once they have evidence, they're going to move much faster now with actual banning. They're going to go through the same process of warnings and those sorts of things. But the idea is that it'll be quicker, and you should have more things will stick with a player who keeps doing it. Like, hey, you can't just keep doing this now. It doesn't really solve all of the problems. I wanted to make mention, I put in the show notes, that there was some talk again over the weekend on Twitter about like connecting Magic Online accounts to DCI numbers, for example, so that it'd be, because if you get banned on a Magic Online account, or you think you're going to, you can just like, oh, well, I have to stop drafting here, but I could just make a new account or switch to my secondary account or these things. So connecting it to a DCI number fixes that, and then if you do that on Magic Online, you can face real-world repercussions too, which is true accountability. Now, I think it opens a lot of can of worms if you do that, including things like making it difficult for people to have second usernames to test decks out. Anybody who might stream, for example, and then like maybe has multiple accounts for that, that could be a little tough. But I think it was at least interesting because this seems to be the direction they're heading, is more accountability. And the easiest way to make it more accountable is to tie a real world thing into it. Like, your account is tied to this number. You can't make a new account without a new DCI number, which you shouldn't be able to easily get. Like, you can't, I guess, go to the store and get a new one, but they shouldn't be doing that for you if you're suspended. So I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like, it raises the question is, like, why isn't this done already? So there must be some sort of reason why.
The reason why is because the DCI was its own body.
Yeah.
Like, it was such a big deal for so long, and like, the rating system was so important that it was its own body. So, like, that's why it stayed separated. The DCI being its own thing. Yeah,
I don't know. Like, that obviously would lead to more accountability on like your player base. Like, hey, if the actions that you conduct here have real world repercussions, but they should anyway. Like, your Magic Online account is still something you put money into, and like you being abusive on that and getting it shut down, should have some sort of real life repercussion as far as that's concerned. And there's you hope that there's ways to prevent people from just like shifting to a new account, a different screen name, what have you. And even if this is something that was off of your DCI, there's still ways to get another one, obviously. But again, that's just sort of another hoop to jump through. So maybe like you're disincentivizing people from like attempting to be so rude or just generally terrible on Magic Online. I think making it easier to report people is important. Making it something that is more actively looked at is super important.
I like the idea that you start really creating a pattern of play for yourself, right? Like, to the point that they'll just like close your account. Like, oh no, you're just done. And I think this is in line with what we've seen with other major games. Like, if you've seen what like Blizzard has been trying to do with Overwatch, and then of course trying to control Overwatch League, and you look at these things, like, there has been this move against that sort of toxic player culture. And I think the easiest way you do that is like you have the strike system where it's like, okay, you've done this multiple times. We have all the evidence of it, and I think that's why they're being so specific that they want, like, please give us the picture evidence. This, go back to look at the replay of your game. Give us this. Submit it. Tell us the reason why you're blocking them. All these things. So when we go to them and we ban them, we have all this evidence. There's no, and I think that's a right step. I don't know. I think there's probably a next step in between getting into a DCI connection. It probably has something to do with like making things like public suspensions for Magic Online, just like there are for paper Magic. Like, you see it, you can see who it is, and look at the lists. But I think it's a good idea. Like, evidence is good for this, and I don't know. I think that what I will say to players is that you have to get, like, I know that it's annoying sometimes because it takes time out of your day, but you have to get in the habit of reporting these people. Like, if you're upset when these things happen, or it's annoying that these things happen, the only way it stops is when they get their hand slapped a little bit. Like, if you just ignore it, and it's fine, be the better person, don't interact with them. Report it, though. Yeah. Like, that's important. So, and I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of just either, like, actively laughing at the chat because the salt is real. But, like, if you're going to take the time to send it to, like, Salty Losers, the, like, Twitter account, then take the time to send it to WotC, too.
Yeah, they don't know unless you tell them. That's the
I feel like
truth.
That's literally something my parents used to say. Like, well, my brother did this. Well, we don't know unless you tell us. Darn it.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you want to change, what the kind of experience you're having online, then you got to tell somebody. And specifically, Wizards of the Coast is actually not just somebody.
And just somebody.
Just Wizards of the Coast specifically.
Help. This person online was mean to me.
They're trying to make it easier, and that's all you can really ask for, is like making this process easier for the end user that needs to do the reporting. So, good on them. All right. Next up, I keep opening the wrong tab on my laptop. Discuss.
Discuss. All right. Fair enough.
The next thing we'll talk about is sort of another notable person sort of leaving the WotC umbrella. We have Mark Winters announcing that he is leaving and going to be working for Valve. Now, you may or may not know, Valve is working on a card game, digital-only card game, based off of their Dota, or Defense of the Ancients franchise, which is very, very popular MOBA. But I guess it's Dota 2 technically.
So I like how I understand the audience we play to, but I like how you said the acronym Dota and then spelled it out and then said it's a MOBA and moved on.
Yes. So a MOBA is so like something like League of Legends, something like that. It's a multiplayer online battle arena.
There you go. I just think it was funny. Like, if we're going to spell out one acronym, we might as well go for all of them.
So it's a game where you have, two opposing sides. You have champions or characters you choose from to play as. These champions level up throughout the game. They get new abilities that you can use to battle the other players, or the CPU-controlled opponents. CPU-controlled sort of things on the battlefield, like creeps, is typically what those are called. It is. If you think like Magic is a difficult like game to break into, like just take a peek into like any of that, and it makes me feel old because I just don't get it. But they are, again, taking this intellectual property and turning it into a card game.
You probably could have said IP there. I didn't mean to break acronyms entirely.
No,
for
it's
you.
okay. And the game itself is designed, or at least partially designed. Oh no, not this again. I'm sorry. Partially designed by Richard Garfield. You might know him. He may or may not have developed this little game called Magic the Gathering. So, needless to say, the game definitely has a good baseline as far as that's concerned. And Mark Winters was the art director for Magic, and he even had sort of a farewell post, as it were, on Magic Salvation, talking about the art direction for Dominaria.
Yeah, he was the lead for Dominaria.
Yeah, exactly. So this is interesting, especially since we know that he is definitely going to a competitor, where what soon will become a competitor of Magic, even if they don't see it that way. But I think the more that I hear about the artifact and like the sort of built-in base it'll already have with a lot of people that are into Dota itself, or just into Valve games in general, you might know Valve. They're this little small game company that made Half-Life and Half-Life 2, and I don't know, Portal 2, Team Fortress, Dota. These
Team Fortress 2. If you're just name all the sequels,
just name them all. Not Half-Life 3 though. Never Half-Life 3. But these games that have monumental impact in the gaming community, to see that this is going to be their next game, you have to pay attention to it, because they don't really have a bad track record. They also made Steam, which not a game, but definitely where you buy your game is more than likely.
Probably going to buy this game.
Yeah, most certainly. So if you haven't heard about Artifact, I would encourage you to read up on it. There is some stuff about it that is currently out. But if you are a Richard Garfield fan, which you might be, he helped with Dominaria. So
I really enjoyed his one of his earlier card games too, like digital card games. It was a Spectromancer. Did you ever play that? That game was really cool.
Good.
So like I wouldn't be surprised if this was good. And I think back to the topic here with Mark Winters. I think like losing Winters and then Kelly Diggs so quickly seems pretty upsetting. I know that this flavor, like this Vorthos rich set, is going to be like. Not every set can be like Dominaria.
No.
And I understand that we're not going to come back to Dominaria again for a little while. It's not going to be like it used to be. I get it, but it does seem like I'm super excited I am about the set. I'm loving every bit about it. I'm excited to play Standard. I want to draft it. I want to read everything that's come out about it. I want to listen to everything that's come out about it. Like, I am in. But it's kind of jarring to be like, oh man, I love all this stuff. Bye, Kelly Diggs. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh man, I love all this stuff. This artwork is insane. Oh, see you, Mark Winters. Like, it does seem like these are really poorly timed for Wizards. And it looks like they may have had control of at least one of them. Like if Mark Winters took another position, that's fine. But the Kelly Diggs one still seems odd to me. So
that one obviously there is seemingly more behind it. Maybe
there is, but it's upsetting. It's I'm not gonna lie, It's upsetting. It is so weird to have like it seems like every single time, no matter what, is WotC makes good decisions, and then there's got to be some black mark on it somewhere that.
I mean, you can't stop corporate headhunting. I mean, you just can't.
Well, you definitely can.
Okay.
You can pay that person
more money, I guess.
So to say that you can't is actually untrue.
Okay, well, you can.
We still have Cynthia Shepard. Like we still have like it's not like that. We're just like losing all of the talent for Wizards.
Yeah.
But I think that like losing like. Mark Winters hasn't been the senior art director for that long, honestly. Since Kaladesh is essentially when he took over, and so it's not like we're like losing something too drastic as far as like his lead there. But if you've enjoyed the art from the last few sets, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And though Ixalan was Cynthia Shepard, so
yeah.
But like Kelly Diggs too, like you're losing the guy who like read everything, knew all of it. It seems weird to fire a library. It's you know what I mean. It seems I don't know, but
unless like.
I'm assuming. I said fired. We have no idea.
Oh, yeah.
But
unless they book Eli'd him and he just got to recite all of it and they wrote it all down and then.
Is that how that movie ends? I've never seen the Book of Eli.
Sorry for spoiling Book of Eli. Yeah,
that's all right. Like it's the one Denzel joined. I didn't get a chance to look at. So
I mean, it's okay.
I was too busy watching Remember the Titans for the 27th time.
I mean,
I don't remember the Book of Eli. But
sorry.
I remember the Titans.
Yeah, spoilers for Book of Eli. Sorry.
The Titans win. Spoiler for Remember the Titans. Anyways, I guess let's move on.
All right.
Oh, hey, it's me.
Yeah, you played some Brawl.
Yeah, so Keller, who we already mentioned, friend of the show, really decided he wanted to try out some Brawl. And here's the deal. That guy has been on Standard for a long time. When he says he's going to buy Standard cards, my ears perk up. I'm like, okay, I got to hook him in. He built Brawl, which is unsurprising. And I didn't realize how popular Brawl was kind of getting on Magic Online. Like, it's been really embraced. And then there was an article on Star City Games today, which is Tuesday. Was it May 8th? That discussing, like, the banning of Brawl in Brawl, which, if you do not understand that I'm saying two different words, I'm talking about Brawl, Chief of Compliance, and the format Brawl. I know that's awkward. I apologize. So I built a Tetsuka Umezawa Brawl deck, which was my excuse to play mostly draft commons, and really enjoyed it, actually. Building it was fun. The card pool didn't feel like narrow. It felt like a really fun puzzle to play with. The things I wanted the card to be able to do and like color identities, like I get to play with Catcher's Monument with Umezawa because it says white. It doesn't have a white symbol on it, so that's great. Brawl was powerful and fun. I played against another friend of ours had built a I can't think of the name of the card now. Joda Archmage Eternal deck, which essentially is like a 5-color Planeswalkers deck that was really cool. It had like Shalai and all these Planeswalkers. It had the other Capuchin, I can't remember his name.
Raph.
Raph. I almost said Jeff, and I knew that wasn't it. That's like Jeff Capuchin, but now he's Jeff. So it's Jeff.
I want a Jeff Capuchin now.
So he just started like flashing in Planeswalkers, but then I could just attack him without any care because everything had. It was a lot of fun, and then I kind of went home and this week have built another one, which is the Fire Song and Sunspeaker, which because I pre-ordered some Dominaria boxes, I had this to play with, and I was like, man, Wizards, you got me. Like, I pre-ordered your set, you gave me the foil to play your new format, and I built the dang thing. So screw you, I guess. I don't know. You got your money hooks in me, but
what a rube.
Here's the thing. I'm enjoying. You didn't. Hold on here. I'm going to read back the record. I think I'm going to build Teferi. Oh, well, weird. Yeah, what a rube.
I'm just kidding. It's just
that's fair. This is an excuse for you to play your standard deck in Brawl form. So
this is true.
But I think it's kind of cool. I still don't know what rotation will do to it because like I bought some cards for it, and I'm going to feel bad when those rotate. But I think that there's also just a bunch of standard cards that I just never would have looked at, and now I get to do that. And like just looking at the stack that I literally brought out next to me, like I've got things like Repeating Barrage, Star of Extinction, Cataclysmic Gearhulk, Huatli, like just things that haven't seen, like a Primal Amulet, stuff that hasn't seen actual play.
Yeah.
But like now it fits this puzzle, and I think it's pretty cool. So I think there's been a lot of cynicism about it, and I know I said it from the beginning that it's not really for me, and it's not really for me. I'm having some fun with it. I'll probably set it down and not play it again for a while, but I think the people who get mad and say like, oh, this was just a money-making scheme from Wizards, that's Magic. Magic literally is Magic, the money-making scheme for Wizards. It could be called that instead of the Gathering. The Gathering. Literally, I don't know why I just went hello Mutta, hello Fada.
I gotta go play Magic the Gathering.
Hello Mutta, buy more Magic the Gathering. But in all seriousness, like it is about money. But I think if they can take the cards that you have and give them value for a different reason, I rated a bunch of like bulk stuff I had sitting around. Like, oh, I know my wife opened some of those in draft. I've got them sitting here. Oh, cool. I like the Repeating Barrage. Oh, I have that because that was a draft thing. Who cares? I think it's I think it's kind of fun. So if you get a chance to like sleeve it up and do that, I think what's been really interesting is I've seen some pro feedback on it. Like Channel Fireball had a few writers mention it, that it's been kind of fun to play in between rounds as like just a pick me up kind of format. And I think it's kind of cool if you can have enough people embracing it and you're seeing it immediately be on Magic Online. And I said before, I'm not a huge Arena fan, but Brawl is the format that could get me to play Arena. If I could play Brawl on my phone, that's the way I could pass my time. I think they'd have me there too. Once again, the hooks would be in deep.
Man, you might have to wait 2 years for that to happen, unfortunately. But
yeah,
hey.
I'm aware. Because why would they ever do anything in a timely fashion?
Right. Why would they put in this format that's would be perfect for Arena and take forever?
Back, we can have this whole conversation again. Go back to the one we just talked about, right? We have all of this. Look at the hype train. Dominaria, it's a rolling. We had half the set like spoiled. Didn't even matter.
Nope.
Hype train's a rolling. Oh, wait, Kelly Diggs is gone. Like, it's like, oh, wait, what? Like, ooh, we hit a pothole. Wait, what's that? It's the same thing here. Like, Arena, here's this new format. People are buying into it. Sweet, let me play this on Arena. Yeah, we don't have that done yet.
Yeah, it's not done yet.
It's like, potholes. Can you please fix these?
But draft's there now, or at least during certain times.
Yeah, but draft is on Magic Online, and I can do that already, so I don't need it.
I know. So is Brawl.
And so is Brawl. But again, if I could take it on my phone, but why would mobile be their first instance of anything?
Mobile's typically like that's not the lead platform.
The Trumpy and Bigly there,
huh?
It sounded like you just said mobile's too bigly.
No, I said mobile's not typically the lead platform. Even for Hearthstone or any sort of digital game, you want your thing to work on PC first.
That's true.
So
and I don't begrudge them for that, but I think they, as I said before, like they are trying to hype this up so much, and it's just going to be so long.
Yeah, I agree. I think Brawl is about as fun as the other people you're playing with are having with it.
Oh, that's for sure.
I think like if all the people in your like local shop are just like, yeah, I'm just gonna play Brawl because it's the best, I don't think you're gonna have a lot of fun playing all these Brawl mirror matches.
I think I played again. We played some multiplayer games. Even things like Brawl, they're not good multiplayer.
Correct.
Like if you have 4 Brawl decks, then like sure, but counter magic is really, really good when you have one opponent. But if you have multiple opponents, you really got to call your shots. So
yeah, and I mean, I think like that's obviously the multiplayer aspect changes the tune.
It does, a lot. And I don't know how many times we'll play multiplayer. Like I definitely built a deck so I could play heads up with Keller, and he bought a couple more. I know he's got a Joyra deck. I think he said something along the lines of, "I want to cast Brass's Bounty during step 2 or chapter 2 of the Antiquities War."
Yeah,
that sounds great. Like that all sounds wonderful. So I don't know who else I know most of his are all going to be blue or red or something like that.
Yeah, so, shocking.
Yeah, that's one of the cards you can play. But
yep.
But I hope, Morgan, I hope you build one. And if you've been like wondering what the format's like, I say build it. Take it to F&M. Go find someone to play with. Try it out. I think it's kind of fun.
I don't think like. I think you want to play with people, and like probably in a multiplayer setting. I don't think I would encourage people to play it online. I don't think I'd encourage people to play it on Magic Online. To be perfectly
that's why I
honest,
said if I could take it on Arena on my phone, like play casually like that, I think so. No, I've not. I could have adopted it on Magic Online right now. I haven't done that. If I'm going to do that on Magic Online, I'm going to do something more competitive, or I'm just going to keep drafting Dominaria because it's a blast.
Exactly.
So,
I do think that it's really hilarious that this new format comes out and people are already like calling for bandings in it. But I think Brawl.
Well, I think it makes some sense. They did the same thing for 1v1 Commander when they brought it on there because it's a format they probably didn't test very much. Like they played it casually in house before they release it.
Yeah, so, and then people will have like you're playing your favorite thing. You're not playing like the best thing.
Exactly. So I think it's okay that's the kind of format where the player base has to find the bugs. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean that's been true of every Embrace format. Like technically, WotC let players get all the bugs out of Commander, even of their own ban list, and then they decided to support it. So I think that's okay.
I do think it's weird that you don't immediately see like Brawl and be like, you might be the best thing. You might just be the best thing to do in this format, but we'll see.
Oh no! It certainly is the best thing to do there. Like I looked at Mono Blue and said, "Oh, I want to play Tetsugu Umezawa."
Yeah,
I'm dumb, right?
I'm playing the wrong 2-mana 1/3.
Umezawa beats the brakes off of Brawl because it's hard to counter a bunch of 2-drops and then you can't interact with them.
Correct.
It's just like, oh, that's still unblockable. Oh, that's weird. Mm-hmm. And then I will just attack you for 3 or 4 until you're done.
Yep.
Counter all you want. So.
Yeah, like I said, if I have some free time, I might build Teferi.
Yeah, I hope you do. And just I don't know. I hope again. all I'm saying is that I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. It's been a fun puzzle for me. Like I've been pretty swamped with work recently, and it's been kind of a nice back of my mind puzzle to work on my phone. Just something to do, just like messing with BattleBox or something is. Like it has been a pleasing brain puzzle, so it's been nice.
Cool. All right, before we move into competitive, do you want to give a shout out real quick to Comic Town? They're going to be hosting the Star City Games regional tournament in June, so definitely be sure to check out more details for that by doing a Facebook search for Comic Town Gaming Center, or by going to worldcomictown.com. I think pre-reg is open for that, so definitely
they have an Eventbrite site for pre-reg.
Yeah, so pre-reg is open, so definitely do that sooner rather than later if you don't want to get shut out of the tournament.
I think it's gonna be a good time. I was actually in the shop talking to Ryan, who's the owner, about like what they're going to do for space, because they've got a huge store now, and this is going to, I think, be the first test of
test of their actual spacing.
And they seem to have a pretty good plan for it, and I think that's going to be a cool atmosphere to be in, at least for a little bit, like to see what that store can do. I think it's going to be cool.
All right, yeah. So definitely worth your time, especially if you want to compete for that pennant or that flag or whatever the tagline is. Plant your flag or whatever.
Get that turtle mat.
Get that turtle mat.
It's because I'm pretty sure it's like how the turtle got its shell is like that similar that mythos. So.
Whatever.
Hey, that is a Native American myth, and it's great.
Good.
Because the turtle was too nice.
That's a good, nice turtle.
He gave his rubies away, and they had to get a new shell. Anyways,
I also wanted to give a quick shout out to a local Etsy shop by the name of Barbaric Woodcraft. I actually found their stuff through Reddit, and they did have for a short time some of their test boxes in Comic Town, actually. So I got to actually.
He's attended a number of pre-releases and sold there as well.
Yes, and I know that they sell basically it's a woodworking shop, but they specialize in these beautiful sort of custom wooden deck boxes. They also have pretty much some other sort of one-off items as well that you can definitely take a look at. But we wanted to support sort of a local store selling something kind of unique, kind of hard to find anywhere else, and that the name of the shop is Barbaric Woodcraft. You can find them on Etsy. So definitely do a Google search, which is how I find most anything for Barbaric Woodcraft, and they'll come up right up. Or they're etsy.com/shop/Barbaric Woodcraft. So let's move on to competitive. So we had 2 limited GPs over the weekend. So Dallas and Beijing. We just want to give a quick shout out to the winners first and foremost. So Robert Brown, who was the winner of GP Dallas. Congratulations. And Zhang was the winner of GP Beijing. So congrats to you.
So I want to make mention. I linked an article in here.
Yeah.
Even though we don't cover limited GPs too much, I thought we talked about the format a little bit last week in Sealed, and of course this format we had a traditional top 8 draft and a little more traditional style of GP being single player. And I thought it was interesting that both of the lists that won were white-based aggressive decks.
Yeah, they're leaning on the aggressive side for sure.
We talked about how aggro seems to have not been well-positioned in the format, but there are some similarities between this deck. Things like multiple copies of Adamant Will, Jousting Lance, things like Pegasus Courser really carrying the team. Because it's got wings and it makes things fly. But I think it's interesting. The article goes on to talk about how even the pros really haven't fully figured this out yet. Like there's a bunch of people who are sort of, no, don't play these 2 drops. I was harassing Morgan because both decks are playing Mesa Unicorn, which we argued about a little bit. And they said, but there's a bunch of other pros who are, give me all the Mesa Unicorns you can get. I needs more Mesa Unicorn. So I think it's kind of interesting that, as opposed to it being like a definitive, oh no, we need all these 2 drops, that's how you play Ixalan. This format seems so deep, and I've been drafting a bunch of it on Magic Online, and this no deck, even the decks that are in the same colors, the first green-white deck I drafted was a double Shana, the Zong's style list, and that deck was insane. And the next green-white deck I drafted ended up being pure heroic with a Traxos and a Mishra's self-replicator, and had similar cards, but the deck played...
Historic, not heroic.
Oh, sorry. Historic. My bad. But the deck played totally differently, despite having probably 10 to 15 of the same cards. And I think that that is such a cool thing about this format. Like, now I know other formats have felt this way. Maybe we're just all like we've been starved for a while, but I think it's really interesting to see how, a week ago everyone would have told you, oh, well, like any person drafting would have pushed their glasses up their nose and be like, well, aggro is not very good. And then these two guys are like, fine with me.
Yeah, it goes to show if the pros are arguing about like their pick lists or their tier lists, then it's probably like a very complicated format, or at least very deep, and you can have a lot of different sort of strategy within it, and I think that gives it hope. We don't necessarily talk a lot about limited or even really invest a lot of time. Paper drafting at the very least. Recent sets. I know, Mike, you've been doing a lot of Magic Online drafts.
I played a lot more Magic Online in the last year just because I've been home. So it's been nice.
And so it's nothing that we could be like experts on. Unfortunately, if we were to bring on a third host, I think they'd have to be the limited expert.
Maybe that's it. We'll have tryouts.
We'll try. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It wouldn't be playing us unlimited.
No, not at all. But. I'm glad to see this format still kind of like shaping out.
Yeah,
and it makes me kind of excited for like the limited portion of the Pro Tour.
Yeah, I felt the exact same thing. Like, I'm excited to watch this
because I'm
excited to watch the drafts.
Yeah, because if they haven't figured it out, like we haven't figured it out, then it's exciting because you don't know like you can have like people draft weird cards and it be right and they win with it, and that's cool.
And if they know that card, like how do you perfectly draft around the Aquende, like this or like just like man. I think it would be really cool to see someone get rewarded for knowing their archetype or what they wanted to draft.
Yeah, it'll be like when you had Calcano draft like a bunch of Slither Blades or what have you, where it's like, this is a weird archetype, this is a weird strategy, but it works. Yeah. So
I do want to make one more quick fun story from GP Dallas Fort Worth, which was apparently they used a label maker for Mishra's Self-Replicator, and there was a player, I'm trying to remember his name. Oh, shoot, they had him up here. Sam Illenfelt, who had it on camera, and they had to keep making the little label maker tokens for his Self-Replicator, which I thought was just hilarious. Like, oh no, how do we make tokens for this? Someone grab the label maker.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
All right, so we can move on.
Yeah, so let's talk about Star City Games Baltimore. This was another team open, and so we got to see a little bit more of everything that you may or may not like. And the winning team was the team of Epen, Ferzola, and Lou. Defeating Team BCW.
Yeah, Grace Mary
in the finals with as Mike said, which is kind of surprising, but I think that when you take a look at some of the decks that we see that they were piloting, I think the main standout is definitely like a deck that we haven't seen probably a whole lot of, and people might have been kind of unsuspecting of, was like Green Black Constrictor, showing up in the standard seat. I think Blue White had a lot of hype around it, and we see a Delver list, but not the Delver list that you might be thinking in Legacy. It's Sultai Delver. So
what?
so eschewing red, or eschewing red? Eschewing red. And we see like the real Delve threat kind of show up. No of these big zombie fish. No, we're stocking tombs here. But I think having just like a big giant flyer is fairly interesting, and the matchup was against Tan and Grace playing Grixis Delver. Tan and Grace has been, I think, the legacy seat for Team BCW, at least for multiple teams that I've seen do pretty well. So he definitely knows Grixis Delver and how to play it. So I certainly wouldn't want to face him down with a legacy deck, just in general. But I mean, like, if I was even skilled with a legacy deck, I still won't want to see that as being my opponent. And then we have what I assume was a lot of permanence on the battlefield. The humans versus elves matchup in the finals. So I don't know how that one swings, but I do want to take a look at this even less, see if there's any spiciness. I know he was playing one Direfleet Daredevil main, which is in that flex slot that you kind of almost see like the Angel, Restoration Angel in, or your random whirler virtual rogue, or something like that. So he was going back with the
whirler virtuoso is a Vidalkin, right? So.
Yeah. But I wonder if he ever got to live the dream and collect a company against the elves, against Ross Miriam.
It's pretty good.
Or even like Court of Calling. You could. I don't know how that works. You cast it, so you could just do anything, right?
Yeah.
Because you exile it and then you cast it with, okay, cool. Yeah. Or Court of Calling. Probably not. It's a one of, so probably not. I wish I did see this finals. I kind of want to see how these shook out. I didn't see the finals, unfortunately. I did watch like a little bit of coverage, but not a whole lot, unfortunately. I was in math hell on Sunday. Did like 5 hours of my math class. So I was in math jail.
Just Morgan sitting there sweating, his numbers like fly out the screen at him. Oh gosh.
But I think let's talk about standard first. So I think the breakout deck that we saw in this tournament was the white-black aggressive deck.
Absolutely.
That was sort of the deck that was everywhere. It was the deck that I expected to be on like the winnings team. But we could take a look at your favorite player, Collins Mullen.
Collins Mullins. I've already said on here multiple times I would never not say it. I'm sorry, bud.
And he's piloting this sort of interesting brew or interesting pile of good cards, as it were. And so the focal point I think of this list really is we see 4 card, 4 history Benalia as being like some of the new cards from Dominaria, and the most powerful cards probably in this deck. Not to say that there aren't other powerful cards. Obviously there are, but God, I feel like those are
cost $600.
Yeah, this deck's not cheap. Again, Karn is a card that it continues to exist with me knowing I will never own any of them unless I buy a box and get lucky. But a card is just going up and up and up. It started high and staying high for probably the entire time that it's in standard.
Yeah, I think this is a deck that people. We saw a little bit of this last week, but people really pushing card here. Like Karn is good with Heart of Kieran.
Yeah,
it's just what it is. And Karn makes more artifacts, which is good for a number of reasons. It's obviously good for a Toolcraft Exemplar, but Karn makes a creature to defend itself, and then also has a ton of loyalty to crew the Heart of Kieran. This deck is pretty awesome. So you already mentioned the history in the Karns. We also have Lyra Dawnbringer.
Yeah.
As a 2 of. But I want to talk about Knight of Malice.
So, yeah, Knight of Malice, I think, is what makes a lot of this deck work.
Yeah, and I think it's subtle. We talked about this in our set review, how I think those are pretty good uncommons. And now if you're looking at the Knights deck, right, and this is sort of a Knights deck, with the History of Benalia, but it being the only black creature, Scrounger, which is the black activation, but it being a 3/2 with first strike lets it attack through anything. It also accrues Heart of Kieran very effectively. But it's a really good Planeswalker defender. If you need to hold up, because it can't be hit with most of the common removal. You cannot cast it down, you can't Fatal Push it.
This is the black one. It has. It can't be.
Oh no, sorry, I'm doing it backwards.
Yeah, you can't be sealed away. Sorry, it can't be cast out.
But it can't be sealed away. It can't be cast out. Can't be Ixalan's Binding, anything like that. And I think that is. I'm sorry, and I knew that. I don't know why I was saying that.
It's unbound, unbent, unbroken. We get it.
But I think the fact that it does that, it gets to pump itself. It is so efficient in this deck as a 2-drop.
Yeah.
That I think it's kind of scary. And if your 1-drop is Toolcraft Exemplar and your 2-drop is Knight of Malice, and then you get to drop a heart after that. I don't know where we're going.
I mean, you either your blue light opponent either has settle or they're dead.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. And this deck gets to do some things like play Duress out of the sideboard and Doomfall as well, so it can really fight back against some of those settles and those wraths. It plays 6 different Planeswalkers and also the Scrap Heap Scroungers as a way to also fight against those wrath effects that aren't specifically settle. And there was I know we've done this a couple of times, and I apologize for that. But I was telling Morgan there's a really really great piece on Star City this week, which was I think it was Jane and Clownparians, but talking about like breaking down how you fight against blue white and where it's weak and where its holes are and everything. And it's one of the best articles I've read strategy wise in the last couple months. And it talks about how like this deck was so perfectly placed to take it apart, like to really fight against that deck, like how it hits the holes. Planeswalkers are a hole, recursive threats are a hole. It's I don't know. Everything about this makes me very happy. This deck feels like a work of art. I'm not gonna lie. This deck feels great.
Yeah, I mean, if you have $600 and really want to break into standard, there you go. You have your access point. Congratulations on your bankroll on your dollar bills, y'all. But I do agree with you in a lot of ways. This is sort of a deck that says I see the holes that blue white has, and I'm going to find a way to sort of get around them. And if this deck is going to continue to exist, then blue white definitely has to continue to adapt, and I think it has the tools to do so.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure. So we'll see where it goes. I'm definitely sweating a little bit looking at this deck and trying to figure out a way to really combat it. But you have options. And I mean, obviously, I think the first place you look is, blue white. You're going to look at either your build. Maybe you are actually a blue white mid range list, like what DeCandio was actually playing in the finals, or maybe you are playing Gideon Reproaches now to help you against like Heart of Kirin, so you can those can become less of an issue. And they're an instant you can flash them out with your Torrential Gear Hulk, which is really important. Or maybe you're playing another color. Maybe you're going Esper, or maybe you're going Jeskai. I think that's definitely ambitious.
Maybe you're going Jesper.
Maybe. I think it's obviously the ambitious choice, but you can't not consider it. You have to take a look at all your options and see what the best course is to plot going forward.
Yeah, I think like if you're looking here, like third place, fourth place, fifth place, and sixth place. And now, granted, these are team, but those are all some variant of this white black aggro deck.
Yeah,
the numbers are different across them. Some have Fatal Push, some have different numbers of Karn, like all these things. But I think that people were able to find that hole in the metagame, and I think what's great though is like we had a metagame. Now we have more. Now, of course, these are team events, so our metagame is probably not perfect, but
it's skewed for sure.
But I think that I don't know, this makes me pretty happy because this deck is still beatable. It is a pile of mythics. I know that's and unfortunately, I think that you have to remember that we haven't when Standard gets this bloated with sets, you are going to have piles of mythics be your deck. Like it's going to happen.
Yes.
Even the red decks are pretty much piles of mythics at this point because they have Phoenixes and Hazards and Chandras.
Turns out when you have big sets, lots of sets, there's just a lot of good cards.
But I think this is cool because this you look at cards like Heart of Kirin, which have gone back and forth, like to continue to see like how can we breathe new life into them. I think it's great that Dominaria is making an impact when we still have a set like Kaladesh being so powerful and sort of dominating the format. We've seen we have green black constrictor, meaning energy is still hanging around, but not in the sense that we've seen it in the past. I think it's crazy that they literally had like Glintsleeve Siphoner being like a staple all over the place just a few weeks ago, and now it's not there as much. You know what I mean? So I think it's kind of interesting to see how the format's already shifted. Do you want to talk about a different take on Blue White, though? Do you want to talk about Blue White Historic?
Yeah, so we could talk about Blue White Historic or Blue White Mid Range. Whatever your want to be.
Blue White Flash, if you will.
Blue White Flash, yeah. But this is what Brennan DeCandio was actually piloting, and this again kind of. We see this team up again. We see Karn and History Benalia. I'm not saying you have to play them always together, but they're two great tastes that taste great together. And this is where we don't see this is actually Instant Flash because we don't have Raph, so we can't actually.
Which one are you looking at?
Brandon DeCandio's list. Blue White Mid Range.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at I opened Gutkins.
Okay,
that's why. Sorry.
So. This technically is more of a for DeCandio's list. This is more of a mid range list that we're seeing with, where we're kind of like saying, we're not doing this whole Raph Capuchin sort of thing, but we are playing Shalai, voice of voice of plenty, and we're never activated. We're not about that activation. We're about the hexproof for us
and that Lyra pumps.
Oh yeah, of course. For us, for our creatures and our planeswalkers, and we're using that to our advantage. We're playing, 9 planeswalkers. We are making sure that our Lyras are getting, harder to kill. That our walking ballistas are getting harder to kill, which I think is really important as well because that card is nasty. And then our History Benalia is, we're getting all the value from our knights. And we even see Art of Kieran showing up here. So, like, I think the Karn, Heart of Kieran, History of Benalia, like, that combination is just really, really powerful.
This does have Wrath in the sideboard.
Fair enough. But it's not necessarily...
But it's not the deck I was looking at originally. So.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the main deck.
It has Fall of the Thran in the sideboard, too.
Yeah, which is... which is something.
When you look at this deck and its ability to get ahead, especially, like, Heart of Kieran's, that's kind of interesting. I don't like. So is a blue-white control the deck you're fighting against with that card?
I would have to imagine. You're trying to. I don't know how well blue-white can really recover.
Right.
From that.
Could you imagine with Wrath if you boarded the Fall of the Thran and Wrath, and your opponent is like, all right, end of turn. I'll flash this Torrential Gearhawk like in response.
Yeah,
I'll flash and Fall of the Thran, and you're just like. Oh, like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Armageddon should not be an instant.
Yeah, it should not. And then, you really kind of mess up their game plan. Like, they have a Gear Hulk, but, I mean, it's not like that's an unbeatable card, especially in sideboard games. So, this is an interesting way that you can, take blue-white deck and build it. Again, stop putting 4 cards in these lists so I can actually, play them. But, I mean, other than that, yeah, it's kind of interesting the way that it can operate. This is a way that you typically see people beating control decks. They are a mid-range list. They're a little bit faster, but they have hardier threats that blue-white has a hard time, having all the answers for. That's fine. We're kind of figuring out and balancing out the metagame. I do wonder how this deck would perform against something like the white black aggro list. I'm sure I could probably look at some archival footage and figure out how that probably shakes out. But I think I would be interested in seeing that because I feel like they're doing like a lot of the same things.
Yeah. Can we also then can we take a look then at the Brad Gutkin list, which is actually historic?
Yeah.
Just for a even further down the rabbit hole take on this. So his version has some more creatures. It has Lyra. It has a Torrential Gearhawk. It does have a Shalai, but it's playing 3 Wrath Capuchins in the main and 4 Merfolk Trickster, which is the blue 2/2 that you can flash in. It taps a creature. It removes all abilities from that creature. And he's also playing 4 Wizard's Retort.
Yeah.
Merfolk Trickster is a wizard, as is Wrath Capuchin. So he's really playing up this element. In his 4-drop slot, when you look, you have Wrath, you have Settle the Wreckage, you have Commit to Memory, you have, more settles out of the board. You have Blink of an Eye, which is also on turn 4 where you want to be at. This deck can really represent a true Flash game plan if it wants to, which I think is pretty interesting. And then once you're looking at, certain cards get really interesting when they have Flash. We've already talked about how, History of Benalia is pretty good when you have Flash. Sagas in general are pretty interesting with Flash.
Yes.
Walking Ballista is very good with Flash.
Yep.
But there's also weird things, like if you look in the sideboard, Sorcerer's Spyglass, cool card to have Flash. Because you can wait till they cast something, and you can go, in response, Pithing Needle.
Yeah.
And I think, that's probably a corner case, but it's a really cool interaction. So I'm enjoying seeing some of the things that gaining Flash in these decks that shouldn't have Flash. And I think it's pretty cool.
I like the one of Nibble Obstructionist.
Yeah,
first of all, Wizard.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's
a
Bird Wizard, man. So it definitely helps with your Wizard's Retort count if that's a thing. But it has an interesting effect. We don't frequently have this kind of effect. Obviously, we have Disallow currently, but sometimes you want to 3-1 flyer, and sometimes you want to stifle something.
Sometimes you want to stifle the tick down of a
Saga,
or a Teferi.
Yeah.
So
very, very important. So I think this is a nifty card that already has Flash. So I mean you don't have to try very hard to make it decent, but definitely consideration going into this standard when new cards are becoming viable. Stifle could just be really viable. at this point in time. So, if you're worried about the fall of Thran, then maybe you might want to. Might want to stifle that. I don't know. It also,
or maybe you want to.
It's important that it's also not a spell when you stifle it. It's harder to counter.
Can also get disallowed. But
obviously, but you can't get negated.
Yeah, that's pretty important. There's one other list that I really want to talk about that it's not really new-ish, but I at least want to mention Mono Green Stompy. This is not the same as the list we saw before that had Ronus' Monument. It has a lot of similar cards, but this is all about, again, taking the Land of War Elves and the Still Life Champion shell and pushing it as far as you can go. And we have Galta Primal Hunger here, which I mentioned before. That card's pretty easy to cheat out. You have Thrashing Bronton Verteriscure Hulk, which keeps showing up in places. And the cool thing about these green decks is it's kind of surprising to me how many sideboard cards they really have access to. Like, you'd think a monocolor deck would have not as many options, but because of things like Life Tractor's Bestiary, like, it has access to card advantage. You have some Planeswalkers. You have cards like Heroic Intervention. You have Prey Upon, which is... Oh man, if you're Land of War Elves into Steel Leaf Champion and then you have Prey Upon against like mid-range decks, that's a tempo explosion. It is so good.
And this list is Splashing Black for Scrappy Scrounger.
Yeah, which is pretty interesting.
I think it makes sense. I think like that's how you can keep the beats coming past like a Fumigate or something like that. You can just bring something back and then still attack with your Heart of Kieran, which I think sometimes like. The green needs a way to not just like fold to a Fumigate. Settle the Wreckage, obviously, like Settle the Wreckage will be Settle the Wreckage. You can play around that though, but it's hard to commit fully to the board main in game one and play around a Fumigate. So that's sort of the way you do that. And these lists get to play like Crushing Canopy, which is kill target Heart of Kieran / Eighth Sphere Harvester or History Benalia, and that you want that sort of versatile card, so you can combat those annoying caveat cards, and not and have a little bit more versatility than a like a naturalized that can't kill like a Lyra Dawnbringer, which is
important.
Yeah, very important. A lot of the determination of how like these lists are going to go is can you deal with Lyra?
Right. I think it's really interesting that like I'm going to say that overall, Land of War Elves has been fairly quiet. Like this is a deck that's close to the top. We have the green-white deck that's here as well, and we saw a green-white list last week. We saw the Monument deck. But I think it's interesting, like, Land of War Elves really hasn't broken out yet, and I think that's just, I kudos to WotC for being a testament to Dominaria design and where they saw Standard going. Like, if this is what the new play design team can do, is they can prove that formats can take, like, a Land of War Elves and not just turn it into this, oh, well, everyone's got to play this card now, right? Like, because I think that's what WotC's fear was, how good this mana ramp was. And it still is good, but they were willing to literally give us a 5/4 green creature for 3 with a Land of War Elves and knew that it wasn't going to be format breaking. So that gives me a lot of hope for where design is going. That, like, they knew that Land of War Elves wasn't going to be some obscene card. Now, granted, Land of War Elves has a lot of time to go in Standard, so that could change, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty nifty. So.
I'm surprised that things like red green aggro, which was
already a thing.
Yeah, which was
those decks are so bad against Set of the Wreckage, though. I think that's what you have to like. Those decks are so bad against Set of the Wreckage.
I don't disagree, and I guess like with just blue white becoming more of a thing where it wasn't before, I guess it just sort of kicks it out of the format.
So when blue black was the deck, then you were building a deck that played Planeswalkers and like powerful creatures, things like Rekindling Phoenix, that pressured all of their removal. Like, you can only play so many Vraska's Contempts before you are out of ways to interact with their permanents.
Yeah,
but the enchantment removal into Fury especially, combined with the fact that Commit to Memory is really gaining a lot of traction in the format, I think it makes it hard for those mid-range decks to do that. Those decks that want to land an enchantment or planeswalker-based threat to go around settle, that isn't what it used to be. Against blue-black you could settle like even something like Advance's Blasting Cannons or a planeswalker, and you could probably sit on it for a little bit and then hold on your creatures. But now, like, you either try not to play into Settle, or then so when you don't play into Settle, then you get crushed by Fumigate, right? Or you get crushed by Cast Out. I think those red-green and those Naya color decks, like the Relax deck we saw, really cannot fight against blue-white.
Yeah, and I think, like, if that weren't the case, then we might be having, like, a little bit more of an issue with Llanowar Elves, but since those decks kind of just have fallen to the wayside, that we don't have that issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of those cards being, like, the better cards in those decks being 4-drops also accounts for it.
Yeah.
Like, Llanowar Elves is obviously still great when it gets a 4-drop in early, but at the same time, like, it isn't actually better than, like, Servant of the Conduit, which already existed, to go from 2 to 4, if that makes sense. So if most of your big bombs are your 4-drop planeswalkers and creatures, then 2 to 4 is the same as, 2 to turn 3, turn 4 is the same as on 1 to 3 to 4. Like, so that's where the difference probably is. So I think, like, Settle just has a lot to do with it right now. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
but when we look at the day 2 metagame breakdown for Standard, we do see that white black aggro list as being like 7 of the 7 of them showing up in day 2 is what I want to say.
And for a deck that didn't exist, that's pretty good.
Yeah, the next highest is 4 with blue white control. So it's pretty significant. It might be something that we have to plan for going forward, and I think it's surprising that when you look at like red black aggro that was so popular and it's only got 3 showing up, so people really
it shows up in the top 16, but it's 14 and 15.
It's not as relevant. I think like the white black aggro list, either people change to it or it doesn't have a very positive matchup against that deck. So.
Now, I will say, if you want to at least take a little bit of a look at the Classic, Red Black Aggro does fare better there. It's both second and third place.
Gotcha.
But Zan Syed won it with White Black Aggro.
Yeah.
So, like, even the Classic gets taken down by it. But here we see more Mono Green Stompy. We see a couple more versions of Blue White Historic and Blue White Control. There's a Bant mid-range deck, which is, okay, so this has Lyras, Karns, Tefiris, and then Llanowar Elves. So this is, okay, here we go. This is where we could find some sweet Llanowar Elf justice.
Oh, for sure.
But even still, like, this deck, like, if you look at it, it's still playing Servant of the Conduit, too, because your Llanowar Elf only gets you to Thrashing Bronton on 2, and Aetherseer Harvester. I think that, like, the standard format feels a lot like the draft format for Dominaria does, where it's just pretty 4-drop heavy right now. So maybe that's why Llanowar Elves just isn't as great as it was.
Yeah, you're not like powering out a really good 3-drop of any persuasion on turn 2.
Steel
Leaf Champion is the exception.
But no, I agree with you. But there's a huge deck building concession to Steel Leaf Champion. Like you are playing mono green to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's tough when you have a format full of Set of the Wreckage. Maybe the way to do that is you take the lead of the list we just talked about, and maybe you're going further into black, so you have duress out of the sideboard. You find a way for interaction, and I think it's cool that again the format can continue to push that way. Do you see that there's a copy of Goblin Gift in the top 16 there as well?
Yep.
Which is pretty sweet. We talked about that deck last week, and glad to see that people are still trying it out. Look for Rowdy Crews. So giving it up to Rowdy Crew.
Oh yeah.
I think it's really interesting, though. Do you notice what card is pretty much entirely absent right now? Like we have a couple of versions of mono red, we have the red black decks, but like, what card is like sort of disappeared?
I mean, there's a lot of red cards that have sort of disappeared.
Yeah, but there's a big one in my mind that has disappeared.
Is it Glorybringer?
It's Glorybringer.
Yeah.
That defined a format for a year.
Weird. It's like if you put a giant 5/5 flyer, that's like what?
Absolutely, you're right about that. And I think that like it stopped being this weird mid-range slog where you had you're playing those creatures out. Like even Whirler Virtuoso has disappeared again. And you think Virtuoso would still have a card you'd want against Dawnbringer, but those colors may not just be what you want now. Mm-hmm. So I think it's fairly interesting.
I do too. But again, like the Dawnbringer is a difficult card.
Yeah,
you have to like be able to deal with it.
I mean, people argued about whether or not Baneslayer was still going to be good enough. Guess what?
It's good enough.
Yeah,
definitely good enough.
Approved. Did you see any other decks you want to talk about for Standard?
Not for Standard. From what I can really see.
How about for Modern?
we do see Goryo's As Foretold showing up.
Yeah, that deck making an appearance again. I was trying to find if it was in which open it was. There it is. I think it might have been 11th place. Did you want to? There's a Jeskai control list that is just Snapcasters and Tefiris.
Yeah,
Ben Nikolic.
Well, yeah, that's the the Ben Nikolic special, for sure. And we also had a blue-white control. I do fairly well. So
Yeah, and that was like was that? Hold on here, make sure I have the right list. Is that the one that had some like flash elements to it?
Maybe
Had some angels, some restos. Gosh, I missed that card. Where does it go?
Noah Andrew,
Yeah.
blue-white control. No Restoration Angels,
Right,
at least
that's
in the main. Okay. But this is sort of your typical blue-white control that we would expect to see with the getting of the trials, 2 Jace the Mind Sculptor, then 2 Snapcasters, Wall Denial, and a V-Click, and then just a whole mess of spells. And with this and Jeskai kind of showing up, obviously these decks I still think need a little bit of something, even after Jace the Mind Sculptor being unbanned, which is wild.
I don't know what to say to that.
I think I think the aggro decks are so diverse; it's really hard to be able to answer them all. So like these kind of decks definitely have a positive matchup against humans.
Did you? I may have missed it. Did you see what this deck is running as a 4 of in the main, along with its 3 Jace?
Spreading Seas
Or Terminus.
Oh yeah, Terminus. That's right.
And I think that's fairly interesting when you look at how the rest of the top 8 sort of breaks. When you have things like, Black Red Hollow one, and you have elves and humans. I think like Terminus makes a lot of sense. That's a card that you want to just. You're probably miracling it any time on 1, 2, 3, and or 4 that you hit it. Like it doesn't matter if they have one creature or not. Like you're just hitting that and tempoing yourself in. But then if you land a Jace against them, you get to do some interesting things with that. So I think that's pretty. I think it's an interesting way to build the blue-white deck.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely you don't have Brainstorm, which makes this a little bit more difficult.
You have Opt. That can do it on their turn, which is cute.
for sure. But you don't necessarily have a lot of other than Jace. You don't have all the ways to easily manipulate the top of your deck.
And I think that's why it's so important that you're probably just like I said, like you are playing it because you desperately want something that you can hit on those early turns.
Yeah.
Like if you are treating Terminus like a Path to Exile, then essentially you are setting yourself up to have 8 Path to Exiles, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's fairly spicy. And then they just get much, much better the later the game goes. And if they get you into later the game, then all the better. So I think it's a sweet way to build.
It's also a card that your human's opponent isn't going to name with a Meddling Mage.
No,
it's not going to be on their radar. They're going to name your
Supreme Verdict.
Supreme Verdict. Yeah. They're going to name your Path to Exile. They're going to name the likely culprits, and then you're going to be like, oh, cool, Terminus, and then you're like, huh. And then they're probably done.
Right.
Like they're just like depending on what their board state looks like, it's probably just game over.
Yeah, for as good as humans is, it certainly isn't very resilient to that one good wrath effect. They have to be able to stop you from casting the damnation, the wrath, whatever it is. And if you can get them, so I think it's a really cool way to build that. Any other modern decks you want to talk about?
Not that I saw. I don't think. I was going to check the classic to see if there's anything.
Yeah,
spicy
I was looking at that. It's pretty. We see Titan Shift showing up in the classic. Mono Green Tron showing up in the classic.
Yeah, Tron hasn't really been something that we've seen a whole lot, but we do see that it's hasn't been dampened by by the sphere quite. I think people are. We're pretty afraid of it initially, and then are trying to experiment to see
it'll
if it
shift just like all the other hate card shifts.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I didn't see anything too revolutionary.
Well, fair enough. Let's finish up then with a little bit of legacy. I want to look at the classic.
Sure.
Just because there's some interesting things to me here. First off. There are 2 copies of Reanimator, one in 7th place, one in 9th place, which I think is pretty interesting because Grixis Delver has essentially rendered this deck pretty non-existent overall in our recent finishes. Deathrite Shaman is pretty oppressive for these decks. So I think it's kind of interesting to see two do pretty well when you see so much Grixis Delver near the top.
Yeah.
They both seem pretty stock. We have all in on the Chancellor of the Annex package now. So.
Yeah, I mean you have to be able to counter, interact with your opponent on turn one,
right?
with that sort of thing, and or before their turn one to prevent their counter magic, so you can get a turn one Grizzlebrand or what have you, and proceed to win.
I do think that I still like the the 9th place which is Michael Plummer. I still like the one of Sire of Insanity as the other ones are playing that. And that Sire of Insanity is such a sweet target against a lot of decks.
Oh yeah, I mean if you can just open up with that, and it just ruins their day.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. But I wanted to throw a shout out to a deck I just haven't seen in a while, and it's playing some sweet cards, and that's Abzan Maverick.
Yeah,
by Nachiket Chahan, is that right? Does that sound good?
That's close as we're gonna get.
All right, good. So we have Deathrite Shaman, Dark Confidant, Stoneforge Mystic, Hero Bladehold, yeah, and Palace Jailer. And Palace Jailer, if you don't know what that is the 4-drop 2/2 white card from the Conspiracy 2.
Yeah.
When it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch, and then you get to exile a card or a creature card, like it's essentially like a Fiend Hunter, until you stop being the Monarch. That is so buck wild to me. What's crazy is there's a bunch of decks that are really good in the format right now. Things like Miracles, things like Lands that can't attack you until way late in the game. Like Lands, the only time they're attacking you is when that's it. Yeah. So if you become the Monarch, you just have Howling Mind by yourself for the rest of the game. And I think that's pretty interesting. As a one-of, I don't know, man, he must have done some kind of work to make that card there. That is such a random card to put in there, but that's so great. We have Lilianas, we have all the normal, we have Lingering Souls here. We have, the Jit Batterskull package with a Sword of Fire and Ice. I don't know. I think it's pretty sweet. You have things like Gaddock Teague in the sideboard, which seem pretty spicy right now. But I don't know. It warms my heart because I feel like I haven't seen a Maverick deck, like an actual Maverick deck, in so long. Yeah. And for this guy to just be like, "Oh no, I'm running Hero Bladehold."
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm behind any deck that's what's my own condition? A Hero Bladehold with all these Lingering Souls tokens. Yeah, so, bring it.
Thank you for that. I needed to see this deck list to remind me that there are some decks in Legacy that I would really love to play.
Unshockingly, Brian Koval, Invitational winner, is playing Miracles with Monastery Mentor. What a shock! He's playing the card that makes his token. Mm-hmm. And color again, me shocked.
Yeah, red. Those versions of the deck now that are all running back to basics. Oh man, back to basics. It's such a punch in the stomach right now. It's so good.
And I mean, clearly it shows that hey, we can take away your Senses Dividing Top. Your deck's still good.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
this deck operating this way without the top balance lock makes me so happy. The fact that there's a deck that just run around playing almost 10 basics as a pure control deck, that makes me really happy. And it tells me that Legacy's pretty close to being okay. I still think Grixis Delver and Deathrite Shaman are pretty oppressive. But there are a lot of things this is such a cool Magic deck. This feels like old school. This is what a blue-white control deck does. Let's throw some Serendib Freets in here and just be done with it. So, pretty excited to see it.
I agree. Anything else from over the weekend that we wanted to bring up, talk about?
No, I think that's it.
Cool. All right. Let's go ahead and close out the show. Before we do so, we want to give a quick shout out to BCW Supplies. You can definitely check out some of their offerings at bcwsupplies.com or do a quick search for them on Facebook. So, what do we have going on over the weekend? We have GP Birmingham, which is in the UK. So don't go to Alabama. Don't expect to find a GP there. But it's going to be a double header. It's going to be Standard and Legacy, which is exciting. This is our first big Wizards of the Coast, tournament, which solo standard. I'm sad that it's not like down the block where I can go play it, but I'm excited to see what happens. And I'm sure a lot of people are very excited to have a standalone Legacy GP as well.
I don't watch a lot of Legacy GPs, but European Legacy GPs are always a lot spicier than ours.
They're a little bit different of a metagame than what we see here. So hopefully we'll see less Grixis Delver, maybe more like Death and Taxes. I feel like
give me a Doomsday deck. You guys are always good for a Doomsday deck.
Can't even remember the last time I've seen anyone play Doomsday.
I know, that's why I'm asking for it. This is what I want.
I wonder if with this we'll see if white black is the deck or not, or if people have figured out how to beat it one way or another.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hopefully a diverse top 8.
Yes.
So,
but I think people are finally excited to see this.
Yeah.
To like have a standard that's worth playing and is exciting. Which it's been a while.
Yeah. We've got 2 weeks in a row now where the Scarab God is just not around.
Just nowhere.
And we, in our set review, talked about how we didn't think there was enough to maybe do that. And the format seems to be correcting a little bit. And like Mono Red is still good, but Hazoret is not as oppressive as it was. This is starting to feel, dare I say, healthy.
Yeah, close. I feel like if Star City Games could have peered into the future and saw this coming, then maybe we would have had more standard opens than what we have currently, which is none.
To be fair, if WotC could have peered into the future, that would have been true as well.
That would have just been great if we could have just not had the entire thing happen in the first place. But well.
But WotC has a future department, whereas Star City doesn't. Like WotC has that room full of crystal balls. Like
to be fair, they put more crystal balls in the room. They put more, so hopefully we'll have a more clear future sight.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
We ended. That's it. Roll credits.
roll credits.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Before we roll said footage, I definitely want to let you know, thank you for listening to the show. If you want to get in contact us, you can do so via Twitter. We are Your End Step on there, so when you add us, it's at Your End Step. And then we do have a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/@YourEndStep, and email @YourEndStep@gmail.com. If you are listening to us via your iPhone, you can leave us a rating or some feedback or review on the iTunes the podcast page. So please feel free to do so. Let's us get visibility, gets more people listening to the show. If you're listening to us via MTGcast, feel free to check out some of the other lovely shows that network serves. Also, we have a Patreon, so thank you to all of our patrons out there that help us, get the show up and running. We couldn't do it without you. And if you do feel like becoming one of those patrons, you can do so via Patreon. You can visit our page, patreon.com/@YourEndStep. But that's going to be everything for us this week. You have a great one. We'll catch you next time. Bye.